Have you ever felt a strange disconnect? Economic reports trumpet positive news, inflation easing, job market strengthening, growth steady. Yet your personal finances, your daily struggles, and your sense of security don't seem to reflect this optimism. This isn't just a feeling, it's a fundamental challenge in understanding our complex economy. This video will equip you with the analytical tools to interpret economic headlines more accurately, empowering you to make informed personal finance decisions and navigate the economic landscape with greater clarity. Before we delve deeper, let's establish a clear understanding of our objective. This discussion is not about dismissing economic data as false or encouraging a pessimistic outlook. Instead, it's an educational journey designed to enhance your economic literacy. We aim to illuminate why positive economic indicators often feel disconnected from individual experience, how these indicators are constructed, and why this gap is a structural feature of economic reporting, not a personal failing. Our goal is to provide clarity, enabling you to interpret economic news with a more nuanced perspective. This understanding is crucial for everyone, from students learning about macroeconomics to consumers managing household budgets and investors making strategic decisions. By recognizing the inherent limitations and specific purposes of economic data, you can better align your expectations with reality and make more informed choices about your financial future. This analytical framework will help you move beyond surface-level headlines to grasp the deeper economic currents at play. Economic news, by its very nature, primarily describes aggregate conditions. It provides a bird's-eye view, telling us what's happening on average across vast populations, what trends are emerging, and how current conditions compare to the past. These broad strokes are essential for policymakers, businesses, and economists to understand the overall health and direction of an economy. They offer a statistical snapshot of national or regional performance. However, individuals do not experience the economy in aggregates. We live within the very specific confines of our personal budgets, our unique financial obligations, and our individual constraints. Our daily lives are shaped by the price of groceries at our local store, the stability of our specific job, and the rent for our particular apartment. This fundamental difference between the statistical average and the lived individual experience is precisely where the disconnect begins, leading to a common feeling of dissonance when good news doesn't resonate personally. Most widely reported economic indicators are meticulously designed to answer very specific, often narrow, questions. They are powerful tools for their intended purpose, but are not comprehensive measures of human well-being or personal financial comfort. Understanding their precise scope is key to interpreting them correctly. Consider inflation data, typically measured by the Consumer Price Index, CPI. CPI tracks the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services. It measures the rate of price change, not the absolute level of affordability. A slowing inflation rate means prices are rising less quickly, not necessarily that they are falling or that goods are now affordable for everyone. For a household already struggling with high prices, a slower rate of increase might offer little immediate relief. Employment data, such as the unemployment rate, measures job availability within the labor force. It tells us how many people are actively seeking work but cannot find it. However, it doesn't inherently measure job quality, wage growth, or the prevalence of underemployment, people working part-time who desire full-time work. A low unemployment rate can mask significant challenges like stagnant wages, precarious work, or a lack of benefits, which profoundly impact individual financial stability. Gross domestic product, GDP, growth measures the total monetary or market value of all the finished goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. It's an indicator of economic output and expansion. While GDP growth is often equated with prosperity, it doesn't directly measure individual comfort, security, or the equitable distribution of wealth. A growing GDP can coexist with rising income inequality or environmental degradation, neither of which contributes to a widespread sense of well-being. These indicators are undeniably useful for macroeconomic analysis and policy formulation. They provide critical insights into economic trends and allow for comparisons over time and across regions. However, they are not designed to capture the nuanced, subjective experience of daily life. Recognizing this distinction is paramount for anyone seeking to understand the economy beyond the headlines. It helps us appreciate the data's utility while acknowledging its inherent limitations in reflecting personal financial realities. Another significant reason why positive economic news can feel out of sync with personal experience is the inherent timing and lag effects within economic systems. Economic improvements typically manifest in official data before they are tangibly felt in the daily lives of most individuals. This delay creates a frustrating period where headlines improve, but personal circumstances do not seem to follow suit, leading to a sense of disorientation and skepticism. Consider the trajectory of inflation. When inflation begins to ease, it means the rate at which prices are increasing is slowing down. However, the price levels themselves remain elevated. If your grocery bill doubled over 2 years, and then inflation slows to 2%, your bill is still twice what it was, just not increasing as rapidly. It takes considerable time and often deflationary pressures, which are rare and can signal other economic problems, for prices to actually fall back to previous, more affordable levels. This means that while the data shows improvement, the financial burden on households persists. Similarly, strong employment data, indicating job creation and a low unemployment rate, is undoubtedly positive. However, the benefits of a tight labor market, such as significant wage growth, often lag behind the initial job recovery. Businesses may first focus on rehiring and increasing production before they feel sufficient pressure to offer substantial pay raises across the board. For individuals, securing a job is one thing, but achieving a wage that keeps pace with or exceeds the cost of living is another. This delay in wage adjustment means that even with a job, financial progress can feel slow or even stagnant. Economic growth, as measured by GDP, also exhibits lag effects. When an economy begins to recover from a downturn, corporate profits and stock market performance often rebound first. This is because businesses can quickly adjust production, cut costs, and benefit from renewed demand. However, the benefits of this growth, such as increased household savings, reduced debt burdens, or widespread improvements in public services, take much longer to trickle down to the average household. The recovery of household balance sheets, which involves paying down debt and rebuilding savings, is a gradual process that extends far beyond the initial statistical upturn. These economic lags are a natural part of how complex systems adjust. They are influenced by factors such as policy implementation timelines, market dynamics, consumer behavior changes, and the time it takes for capital investments to yield returns. Understanding these delays is crucial for developing economic literacy. It helps individuals manage their expectations, recognizing that good news in economic reports is often a leading indicator of future personal improvement, rather than an immediate reflection of current comfort. This analytical perspective can mitigate the frustration that arises when headlines promise relief that has not yet arrived in one's own life. One of the most critical insights for understanding the disconnect between economic data and lived experience is that averages can be profoundly misleading. Economic improvements are rarely, if ever, distributed evenly across all segments of society. An average increase in income, for example, can mask significant disparities where a small percentage of the population experiences substantial gains, while the majority see little to no change or even declines. This uneven distribution means that good news can be statistically real but feel entirely irrelevant or even insulting to those who are not benefiting. Consider a scenario where national average household income rises. This could be driven by significant income growth among the top 10% of earners, while the remaining 90% experience stagnant wages or even a decrease in real income due to inflation. The average looks positive, but the lived experience for most people is one of struggle. Similarly, a strong housing market, reflected in rising average home prices, is excellent news for homeowners who have seen their equity grow. However, for renters or first-time homebuyers, this same good news translates into increased unaffordability and a more challenging path to homeownership. This uneven distribution is not just about income or wealth. It extends to various aspects of economic life. Job growth might be concentrated in specific sectors or geographic regions, leaving other areas with high unemployment. Access to affordable healthcare, quality education, or reliable infrastructure can vary dramatically, even within the same country. When economic reports highlight national averages, they often obscure these critical regional, demographic, and sectoral disparities. For individuals, this means that their personal financial situation is heavily influenced by their specific position within the economic structure. Their industry, education level, geographic location, and demographic group all play a significant role in how they experience economic trends. A positive national economic indicator might be genuinely beneficial for some households, perhaps those in high-growth sectors, with significant investments, or living in thriving urban centers. For others, particularly those in declining industries, with lower incomes, or in economically struggling regions, the same report might feel completely detached from their reality. This is why two people can react very differently to the same economic report, and neither is necessarily wrong. One person might genuinely feel the positive effects, while another might feel increasingly left behind. Understanding that economic improvements are not uniformly distributed is a cornerstone of economic literacy. It encourages a more critical analysis of data, prompting questions about who is benefiting and how broadly the gains are shared. This perspective helps individuals contextualize their own financial situation within the broader economic narrative, reducing the tendency to internalize the disconnect as a personal failure. A crucial distinction often overlooked in economic reporting is the difference between price levels and economic momentum. Good economic news frequently focuses on momentum, the rate of change, rather than the absolute levels of prices or economic well-being. This emphasis on change can make headlines sound positive, even when the underlying conditions for many individuals remain challenging. Understanding this nuance is vital for a more accurate interpretation of economic data and its implications for personal finance. Take inflation, for example. When news reports state that inflation is slowing, it means that the rate at which prices are increasing has decreased. It does not mean that prices are falling. If the inflation rate drops from 9% to 3%, prices are still rising, just at a slower pace. The cumulative effect of past price increases remains embedded in the economy. For a household that has seen their cost of living surge by 20% over a couple of years, a 3% annual increase, while better than 9%, still means their expenses continue to climb from an already elevated base. The level of prices remains high, even as the momentum of their increase decelerates. Similarly, growth improving often means that the economy is expanding at a faster rate than before, or that it has moved from contraction to expansion. It signifies positive momentum. However, it does not automatically undo the strain or losses incurred during a previous downturn. If a recession led to job losses, reduced savings, and increased debt for many households, a return to positive GDP growth does not instantly reverse these personal financial setbacks. It merely indicates that the economy is moving in a healthier direction. The level of household financial security or wealth may still be far below pre-downturn levels, even as the momentum of economic activity picks up. This distinction between levels and momentum explains much of the emotional mismatch people experience. When individuals hear inflation is slowing, they might instinctively hope for lower prices, only to find their grocery bills still daunting. When they hear the economy is growing, they might expect immediate relief, only to find their wages stagnant or their savings still depleted. The news is reporting on the direction and speed of change, while individuals are primarily concerned with their current position and the absolute cost of living. For consumers, students, and investors, grasping this difference is fundamental to economic literacy. It encourages a more analytical approach to headlines, prompting questions like, is this reporting on a change in rate or a change in absolute value? And how does this momentum affect the current levels that impact my personal finances? By focusing on both the direction of change and the current state of affairs, individuals can develop a more realistic understanding of economic progress and its implications for their own financial well-being. When individuals encounter good economic news that starkly contrasts with their personal financial struggles, a common and understandable reaction is to internalize the disconnect. Thoughts like, am I missing something? Am I doing something wrong? Or why doesn't this feel better for me? Often arise. This self-blame is a natural human response to cognitive dissonance, but it fundamentally misunderstands the purpose and construction of economic reporting. Economic data and news are primarily designed to describe and analyze systems, national economies, global markets, specific industries. They are built on aggregate statistics, models, and trends that aim to capture the broad movements of these systems. They are not, by design, intended to measure or reflect individual progress, personal financial success, or subjective well-being. The metrics used, such as GDP, CPI, or unemployment rates, are tools for macro-level analysis, not micro-level personal assessment. The feeling of being disconnected from positive economic headlines is therefore not a personal failure. It is a direct reflection of how economic information is constructed and disseminated. The language of economics often speaks in averages, percentages, and indices, which can feel abstract and distant from the tangible realities of paying bills, saving for the future, or dealing with unexpected expenses. When these abstract indicators improve, it signals a healthier system, but it doesn't guarantee immediate or universal relief for every individual within that system. Moreover, the media's presentation of economic news often simplifies complex data into easily digestible headlines, which can further exacerbate the disconnect. Nuances about distribution, lag effects, and the difference between levels and momentum are frequently lost in the pursuit of brevity and impact. This simplification, while sometimes necessary for mass communication, can inadvertently create a false expectation that systemic improvements should translate directly and immediately into personal comfort. Understanding that economic data describes systems, not individual journeys, is a powerful step towards greater economic literacy. It allows individuals to depersonalize the disconnect, recognizing that their struggles are often a reflection of structural economic realities or the uneven distribution of benefits, rather than a personal shortcoming. This analytical shift can alleviate unnecessary self-blame and empower individuals to seek out more granular information that is relevant to their specific circumstances, fostering a more resilient and informed approach to personal finance. To navigate the often confusing landscape of economic news, adopting a more accurate and analytical framework is essential. This framework allows you to interpret good economic news with nuance, reducing confusion and frustration by holding multiple truths simultaneously. It moves beyond simplistic interpretations to a more sophisticated understanding of what economic indicators truly signify for consumers, students, and investors. When you hear or read good economic news, it usually means several specific things. Conditions are improving relative to the recent past. This is a crucial comparative point. The economy is likely performing better than it was last quarter, last year, or during a recent downturn. This indicates a positive trend or recovery from a less favorable state. Some pressures are easing. For example, if inflation is slowing, the rate at which your purchasing power is eroding is decreasing. If unemployment is falling, the risk asterisk of job loss might be lower, and finding a new job might be easier for some. These are real, albeit often gradual, improvements in systemic pressures. Future risks may be lower. A strengthening economy generally implies a more stable environment for businesses, which can lead to more investment, innovation, and potentially more job opportunities down the line. It suggests a reduced likelihood of immediate economic shocks or severe downturns. However, it is equally important to understand what good economic news typically does not mean. Prices are back to normal. As discussed, slowing inflation means prices are rising less quickly, not that they have reverted to previous, lower levels. The cumulative effect of past price increases remains. Everyone feels relief. Due to uneven distribution and lag effects, economic improvements rarely benefit all individuals or households simultaneously or equally. Some will feel relief sooner and more profoundly than others. Past strain has been reversed. A recovering economy does not instantly erase the financial hardships, lost savings, or increased debt incurred during previous challenging periods. Rebuilding personal financial resilience takes time and sustained effort. By consciously holding both sets of truths, what good news does mean and what it does not mean, you can develop a more balanced and realistic perspective. This analytical approach fosters economic literacy by encouraging critical thinking rather than passive acceptance of headlines. It empowers you to ask deeper questions, seek out more granular data relevant to your personal situation, and make more informed decisions about your personal finance and investment strategies. This framework transforms economic news from a source of confusion into a valuable tool for understanding the world around you. Let's re-anchor the core idea that underpins our discussion. Good economic news often feels bad because it describes system-level improvement, not necessarily immediate or universal personal relief. This fundamental disconnect is not a flaw in the data itself, but rather a consequence of how economic indicators are designed and how complex economies function. They measure averages, momentum, and broad trends, which are distinct from the nuanced, subjective, and often delayed experience of individual financial well-being. Understanding this crucial distinction is incredibly empowering. It helps you interpret headlines more calmly, recognizing that a positive economic report is a signal about the overall health and direction of the economy, not a direct promise of immediate personal prosperity. This knowledge allows you to avoid unnecessary self-blame or frustration when progress feels slow or when your personal financial reality doesn't immediately align with optimistic national statistics. By embracing this analytical framework, you enhance your economic literacy, enabling you to make more informed personal finance decisions, engage more critically with economic discourse, and navigate the complexities of the modern economy with greater confidence and clarity. Please like this video if you have enjoyed it or received any benefit from it. Every one of your likes truly encourages us to continue creating helpful content. Thank you for watching and have a blessed day.